America, and my last name is Hall, Hall. I am with the One Community Grocery Co-op in South St. Petersburg, Florida. We reside on the indigenous lands of the Seminole, Tocobaga, Calusa, and I believe Miccosukee indigenous people. We've gotten great community support. It's a little slower than we would like, but sometimes slow and steady wins the race. We want to do it right. We want it to be effective. We wanted to leave a legacy, like you asked Jabbar earlier. So in order to do that, it's important to have relationships to do exactly what Baba Malik and they've done, who I've known for a very long time in our work around the country. But they build a movement and they built relationships, and that's not something that happens overnight. She's always shown up for all of us, whether I lived in New York, Atlanta, DC, now I live in Florida. He's always been there in terms of supporting leaders and the next generation. It's always about that pipeline of leadership. You all are part of our pipeline of leadership. That next generation, when I'm no longer here, when he's transitioned, we know that we've done our part to leave the movement in good hands. So for me, it's building that legacy, and I think people are starting to understand that in St. Pete. But at the same time, they have to understand that without their support, we can't build. So education, we do drumming circles, we have African drums, we teach the community about drumming, and we talk about the co-op, the principles, we eat and fellowship. So as we do that, it's starting to build community, it's starting to build relationships. We do pop-ups throughout the city at various events. Our vendor, our members bring their stuff. We have a popcorn aficionado who has a truck and a business. He comes and sets up and tables at our events, and we just are continuing to build community, and I think that's very important. And then making sure we bring people to the table that are skilled, that are passionate, and that understand the real essence of what cooperative economics is about. So I think that's some of the ways that we are looking to really leave an impact on the community, and it's starting to be felt. We're being acknowledged in the community. We received small grants from the city of St. Pete for our work. So we just want to continue to build on that. I believe that is where the messaging is very important, and the communications. People that know, right, and understand. But for people that don't know and it's not familiar, just making sure that they understand how important it is for cooperative economics. So I think the message is slowly resonating with people. And like Jabbar said, I think people are understanding that it's not just a co-op, it's a community, it's a movement. It's not an industry. We're not here to just get paid. We're not poverty pimps. We're bringing the community in as owners and as members and as partners. And that is where you build the power and the knowledge, because they feel that ownership, versus we all go to a grocery store and buy our food and leave. There's no relationship built, there's no community built, and there's no lasting relationship. Just our money being exchanged for something that we're not receiving. You know, the food, yes, but we have no attachment and relationship to where that food comes from, who grows that food, and the value chain along the way of how the food even got there, whether you grew it at D-Town Farm or in St. Pete Youth Farm. What's up, Carla and crew? whether it's grown at a youth farm or the Black Church Food Security Network, having that ownership and relationship to the food is important for every member of the community. So that's where the cooperative culture and theory is different from other entities and business opportunities. So I think people are starting to learn that. And as Jabbar said, they're seeing it's not just food. What if we had a utility cooperative? We live in Florida. We're fighting Duke Energy as well as Tico Electric Company because they are monopolizing the industry. We don't have any choice as to how we receive, our services. So why can't we start a cooperative where we own the product and we bring the product to our communities and have more of a say in the way our money is spent and how the energy is used and whether it's good for our environment even. When we talk about sustainability and resiliency, I'm also Sierra Club Florida chapter vice chair. So I work on the intersection of environmental and food justice and sovereignty throughout the state of Florida. So for me, when I talk about cooperative and economics and cooperative knowledge in food, I'm also thinking of the environmental piece of that work as well. We live in a coastal community that, God forbid, when the big one comes, we're not ready. St. Peter's not ready. We live in a coastal community. Ian came, Adalia came, and we barely dodged the big one. We've just had torrential rains and our neighborhoods are flooded, especially Black neighborhoods, because they are on those coastlines. Those are also the same neighborhoods that are food insecure, that have health disparities, that have high crime rates, that have high unemployment and high crime. All of the things, right, that the Black community is intersected with while trying to find food. So our work digs deeper than just the food. It's the environment and the different factors, systemic racism that is causing these things, climate change in Florida is real. It's happening in real time every day. My neighborhood is still submerged in water. So these are the things that prevents people from having access to get to the food. So if we can grow our own food and have a place we can go as a refuge for the community, I think that's where they'll see the value of what being a member and an owner of a cooperative can bring for you. Yeah, we're at the Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico. So the climate change right now is just in real time there. And the sooner we acknowledge it and how it affects every other aspect of our lives, including this, the better off we will be. So that's something as the co-op, we also, we participate in the Storm Squad locally in South St. Pete. We work on disaster relief and disaster prep in Black communities, and we're training our neighborhoods to be able to support other neighbors during a disaster, including the food sovereignty and food piece. And as a co-op, that's why we focus on mobile drop pop-ups, so we can be in a position to be able to either deliver what I call a Freggie box, fruit, vegetables, to our seniors, elderly, disabled people during a disaster. So for me, I'm like, this is Afrofuturism at its finest, right? For me personally, this is how I envision it, being able to do all those things. Well, of course, for the co-op, it's all the aforementioned people you said, Malik, Detroit, Mama Kay in New York. I'm from Brooklyn. I just live in Florida now. Leah Penman, Soul Fire Farms. And then locally, I run the Florida Food Policy Council. So we're a statewide food policy council that works to address the gaps in Florida around food policy and food advocacy and supporting our members around how to grow their food, how to navigate policy. If there's obstacles in zoning laws or ordinances that prevent you from growing food, what are those obstacles? If you're trying to start a food policy council or network to build Detroit Food Policy Council and, the network and all of those things. So we provide that support to our communities throughout the state of Florida, in Jacksonville, in Miami, South Florida. Florida is such a unique place, and we have, a large Haitian migration in South Florida. That area alone, the cultural sensitivity that's required to deal in an area with a large Hispanic, Haitian, a multicultural, area. So working with those communities, working with farmers. I supported the black farmers during DFAP, the USDA, DFAP program. I traveled to those rural areas to interview those black farmers and to help them complete a 40-page application. Okay, this is how cumbersome. In order to get the 40 acres and a mule, you gotta jump through 40 acres and a mule obstacles, right, to get the access to the money. So I'm glad that $2.2 billion is finally trickling down to these black farmers and their descendants and their generations. So that's the kind of work that I do personally, which connected me to the co-op because of my role with the Florida Food Policy Council. And as part of the co-op, we tried to help build a St. Pete Food Policy Council locally to help elevate the co-op and other local groups, but the politics prevented us from completing setting up that local food policy council. So those are some of the groups that inspire us. The St. Pete Youth Farm, again, has become a place that is a multicultural, intergenerational, intersectional place that now not just a food forest and a youth farm, but it's youth development, youth leadership, it's cooperative economics, it's agriculture, it's beekeeping, it's all of these things that our young people typically don't do. And that's a legacy that we're leaving for them. So those are the groups that inspire me to do the work that I'm doing, as well as my Sierra Club, environmental justice, young black organizers that's working around the state, helping to save the manatees, stopping the sugarcane burning in Florida that's destroying their health. So all of those things are important. Highways being bulldozed in our neighborhoods that's causing us, health disparities. So the groups that I know and that I've mentored, young people that are doing that, they inspire me because I see the fruit of our movement being flourished in them. So, and you all as well as part of that next gen. This work is very important, and we have to keep it going and keep that positivity going. And that's what we're trying to do as a co-op, to be an inclusive space for all of that work to be done and be a think tank of sorts, if you will. Our president, since Mama Zinzele, who couldn't be here with us, she definitely inspires me as our cooperative guru who was the vision for the co-op. People like Jabbar, who's deep in the movement in the neighborhoods. He works to, our youth are being gunned down. They're gunning each other down, and it's a very violent time for our young people because we don't have things for them to do. We don't have structures in place. That's why the work that we're doing is so important, to train and teach them that there's other things and other avenues of life. So, they inspire me just as my colleagues locally. And then, again, everybody in this movement that's doing the work and people whose shoulders we stand on inspire me, as well as I inspire myself. yeah, let me give me some flowers for a change and some props. Because I've been doing this for over 20 years. So, the fact that I'm still doing it at the level that I'm doing it is, I give all thanks and praise to the Creator for that energy and that strength to be able to share my jewels and flowers with others. So I gotta give me some props for that.
All right.
No, just pray for us, y'all. We live in Florida. We have Ron DeSantis, who's banning books. We have to take climate change out of our textbooks, the language. So all of the patriarchal, systemic race, anti-trans legislation, anti-immigrant legislation, farm workers have left Florida by the thousands. So people say that inflation and food prices are high because we've driven farm workers out of communities that do the farm work. So the value chain is broken right now. So it's taking longer for food to get places, which costs more. So for people to just say, oh, the Democrats or food is high because it is, no, you don't understand the fundamentals of the food value chain supply system. So educate yourself. That's one of the things I would suggest for people. Don't just take what people say from Fox News or get your news and your knowledge from, places that are not credible. Use credible sources. That's the one thing college does teach you. We all hated it, right? I have 2 graduate degrees, but making sure your sources are legitimate. How did we change from facts and science to just saying rhetoric and anything out of our mouths, and that's being accepted as truth? So that's something that's very worrisome to me. So I would suggest to people, do your own research and inform yourself before you speak on facts that you really have no knowledge of and that you're not knowledgeable of, because then you just spread misinformation and disinformation. So that would probably be my number one piece of advice for people. And with that, that's a wrap, y'all. I'll sign off.